You and I, we met in Palo Alto 2008, something like that.
Yes.
You just came from Walldorf.
Fresh off the boat.
Exactly. You came like to the US or to SAP America. I was like 5 years in business, like LeverX. I started 2003. That means end of 5 years. So, and today, you and I, you're sitting here in Miami, in front of our customers, in front of SAP colleagues, LeverX colleagues. I don't know, to ask one question or two, but like first question is, if somebody told you in 2008 that we will be sitting here, you will be running the biggest SAP field organization. And I will be sitting here with you, asking all these questions in LeverX office in Miami. Tell me.
I would have said for you that's realistic. For me, no way. No, I think this was an amazing run the last 17 years, and it's always unpredictable. And that's what I said. I feel the technology and software industry is really super dynamic, and that's what makes it fun to work there. So many changes, so many things that are unpredictable that nobody could have seen over the years. If you look back, what has happened even the last 15 years. And also certainly personally, it's been an interesting journey. Back then I was working in consulting. I did what we tell our customers definitely not to do anymore. I did ABAP extensions inside of our back then business suite, developed ABAP in the PLM space as well. And certainly had no idea where the journey would take me. But even more so, it's I'm super happy to be able to be back now and see that you and LeverX are doing also extremely well, and you've developed into one of the most important partners for us. Already in my prior role in product, we've worked very closely together in many of our standard developments, and also now jointly for our customers to deliver projects. So I'm absolutely happy that it happened this way, and we can sit here today.
Thank you. Actually, honestly, I know a lot of SAP executive, super executive, hyper executive, a little bit executive, not SAP in general. So, and I think it kind of compares their bios with yours, And I got to think about, my gosh, you started as a consultant. So then you work in consulting organization. Then you went to IT.
First I did strategy, a little bit of...
I jumped like strategy, but for me it's important IT.
Okay. All right.
You know, they remember this famous statement that vision without execution is hallucination. So you work in IT. In IT, obviously, you were, but today is saying customer number 0. These guys, like 8,000 people, they develop software, and you had to implement that as a first line.
SAP runs SAP.
Yeah, exactly. So you basically like went through this exercise to implement this stuff for itself, for like SAP. Then you actually were heading one of the biggest SAP organization. Development organization. So you develop software. And even today, listening to his speech, I kind of think, hey, of course, he's speaking like very smoothly, like a salesperson. But if I think of what he's saying, it's like there's no way the salesperson can do this kind of stuff. So basically, I don't know anybody else in the SAP executive space that I'm very familiar with, that somebody went from consulting to IT, internal IT, then to development, and then becomes this head of the biggest field operation, selling software. Tell me a little bit about that. Is it positive or negative every time if you're talking to us?
No, I think it's very positive, and frankly, It has helped me quite a bit actually in my career, because you gain a lot of credibility along the way. I mean, I feel for everybody at SAP, it's a great starting point in consulting, because you got to go deep in the product, you get your hands dirty, and you really see the customer reality. Which what does it mean to implement our products? It's not always pretty. And then being in IT gave me a lot of empathy for also specifically how it feels to operate our products, because that was one of the biggest changes at SAP when we transitioned from an on-premise to a cloud company, to understand that now we are in charge to operating all of this for our customers. And we had no idea. Our development organization, I remember when I started in S4, I sent them to an ITIL class, all of them, and I said, you gotta learn how companies operate our systems, so you develop an appreciation what it means to put a bug into the software that immediately hits everybody. Because before in the on-premise world, it wasn't a big deal. You have a bug, then you have the first customer who goes live, finds it in the implementation, then you ship a node, and then at some point, the adoption curve was so flat in on-premise that it wouldn't even matter. In the cloud, you have everybody on the same code line. You ship a bug, everybody has the problem. And so that kind of mindset, that took a while for us to develop, and we got a lot of feedback from customers as well. So that was helpful. And then of course, running for years our development organization, then specifically in the core, which was the one domain which we couldn't acquire. So we couldn't acquire a cloud ERP solution, because that's really what we are as a company. So we had to rebuild that in the cloud. And that, of course, with a development team that is in Germany, you have a long tenure, right? People are in the company forever. So a lot of people that used to build R3, they're still there. And now you ask them to build a SaaS ERP solution, and that is quite different. And that was also a lot of transformation. And now, since the beginning of this year, I run here the customer success organization, oversee the Americas region, which is definitely a different world. But also then again develops a lot of appreciation that it is not so easy to convey to our customers what the value proposition is. You get challenged every day, and customers ask tough questions, and they know SAP pretty well. They know our solutions, and they know what they can and cannot do, and they definitely challenge us. Much more than on the product side, where you talk more about product and vision and so on. So I feel this is good and healthy, and I do believe at SAP we are looking actually into this more now, to also structurally have more of those kind of rotations, especially on executive level, because I feel it rounds off your profile and gives you much better perspective. That at the end of the day, I never had a customer in my sales go-to-market role right now who asked me how much I sold. So it doesn't matter. It is really about how can you help me, with some of the challenges I have. That's at the end what it comes down to.
I started LeverX in 2003, and today is like 2025, like 22 years. And of course, actually pretty often I think about like, if I knew then along the way what I know now, I would definitely make different decisions. Did you have such kind of feeling after taking this role and being before the developer?
There's definitely mornings when I wake up and question my life choices, especially the professional ones. But at the end, it is what it is. I really learned, and that's maybe also something I learned in the US after all those years. There's no point in looking back. It's really about what's ahead and what's the opportunity, and see the opportunity and the chances that are in it. And that is something which Germans maybe don't do so much typically, which I really appreciate about Americans, and really pick that up. And therefore, looking back, I would have done probably many things differently. Also, decisions that you take then in product development and even in IT. But it is what it is. I feel it's more important to make a decision. And especially, that's what I try to also bring back to my teams at SAP. If you're in such a large company, and we're now 110,000 people, so the risk of not taking decisions anymore, not taking them fast enough, is much higher than taking a wrong decision, because you can always course correct. But in those times in which we are in, it is important to make decisions because otherwise you'll just fall behind. And complacency is always a challenge in every large company, and you have to actively fight it, and sometimes also stand behind a decision even if it's not popular, and just hope actually it turns out that it was the right one. But that's part of being in management, and therefore I would probably have made some decisions differently, but I just still wouldn't regret them, let's say it like that.
Of course, we kind of like live in the world of cloud. Yeah. So we had I have personally many discussions with customers. Is it private cloud? Is it public cloud? Is it on-prem? It is a combination. What would be your, I know it isn't possible to say this is a recipe for success, but like if you could give some kind of guidance for customers, particularly here, sitting here, yeah, like what you should kind of consider?
I believe it's clear that the cloud as a model has really kind of won the battle, so to speak. And we moved to the cloud because the market and our customers pushed us there. We were pretty comfortable in this on-premise world, selling licenses and then harvesting maintenance at a very high profitability. It's a great business model. But customers pushed us there and the market pushed us there. It's not that we said we want to be a cloud company right now. Our competitors pushed us there when they came up with SaaS solutions. So therefore, it's clear that cloud is the model, and that customers like software as a service, which means they like moving responsibility to the software provider, and in return, use software within given guardrails without putting a lot of customization in. And that happened easier on the line of business than it happened in the core, because the core was usually really what was mostly modified by customers, and that's why this was the last area to move into the cloud.
Actually modified by partners.
Yeah, and partners, exactly. So now, of course, we do have a very specific situation at SAP, that we have a very large install base that has a lot of history and legacy, sometimes really decades. And it's great to have customers with us for decades, but they have built a lot of technical debt. And our partners contributed to that, we contributed to that, they contributed to that. And it was just a different thinking. And then this whole pendulum swung back, and everybody says, I want standard. But it's hard to get there, especially for very large ones. And that's where we said we do need to offer what we call a private cloud in the core and the public cloud solution. And the way we positioned this to begin with was, the private cloud more for our install-based customers, the public cloud for net new names, because if somebody starts from scratch, comes from a competitive ERP solution or anyway starts new, why would they then not go directly to the SaaS solution? Over time, I think it has evolved. So the SaaS solution is also now an option for pretty much companies of any size. It's not a mid-market solution. And we also see more and more install-based customers go there. On the other hand, it's also clear that the private cloud is here to stay. And we have now really significant amount of customers, and very large ones, that are on there, and they will be there for a long time. But what's important is that they do this in a transformational way. So they do standardize, they do address the custom code issue and start, kind of following clean core principles and put themselves more and more into a SaaS-like situation, which means we are taking on more and more responsibility. We operate the systems on the rise, we can even upgrade the systems and so on. So the differences, they become smaller and smaller, and the boundaries blur together as well. And the second aspect, and you see that already today in our private cloud offering, it does contain more and more public cloud or SaaS components. If you look at Joule is a SaaS component. You're not going to be able to change anything in Joule, right? And we'll give you an extensibility environment there as well, but again, it's completely managed by us. But it comes as part of your private cloud ERP. So even the private cloud ERP is not only private cloud, it's becoming more and more of a hybrid. And we are developing standard software on the business technology platform. I showed that earlier. More and more innovation will come on the business technology platform, then also potentially as part of the scope for S4 private cloud. Because it doesn't really matter in the cloud, because you're subscribing to a service, and how we deliver the service, whether this comes then as part of the ABAP platform, technically spoken, or on BTP, it doesn't really matter. So those boundaries, I see them blurring more and more. it's clear that we continue to offer two product lines for ERP with public and private cloud for the core. I don't think there's a right or wrong decision. I think it's really more preference and what is doable then for a customer. And I mean, the more you can immediately in one step standardize and say, hey, I start from scratch and I want a pure SaaS model, then go for the public cloud. If not, then go for the private cloud. But look at it from a transformational perspective. So not just as a lift and shift, not just as a technical move, because otherwise it basically, and that's the risk in the private cloud, we are replicating the on-premise world into this. And that's what we don't want, and that's what customers don't want. And therefore, we are pushing so much, and therefore RISE is not a product or anything. It's really our way, our methodology that helps customers in this transformational effort to get also with a private cloud core to a SaaS-like environment.
Okay, thanks for answering this question, because I think that is important to share for SAP customers that is not like kind of like digital.
No, it's not.
And that's the important mention. I'm glad to hear it from you, of course. What you would expect from system integrators in this like very dynamic environment, like with public cloud, private cloud, one dimension, another dimension, AI, second dimension, increased competition. Like, of course, we can go and say, okay, like geopolitics, whatever, yeah? So we, like one of the global system integrator, we're also operating globally. And of course, SAP is our major kind of like focus. Yeah, but like what you would expect for, I'm not saying from LeverX, but system integrators like LeverX.
Well, I expect them to not sell hours anymore, but really deliver customer outcome. Yeah? And that's
impossible, you know it. Be realistic.
It means we have to move away from those long-term implementation cycles. I mean, this is something that customers don't accept anymore, in my mind. And it's also hard to argue in a world where every week there's changes in AI. It takes 2 years to do an SAP upgrade. I mean, this doesn't fit together anymore. And frankly, there is enough to do. And that requires, of course, a shift also with our partners from a competency perspective where they would focus. There's enough to do on the AI layer in terms of true differentiation that customers can find and true value. They don't need to modify and change an accounts payable process that doesn't add value in their company. And there's no need to do it differently than any other company out there. And partners shouldn't help customers to modify that process anymore. They should say, take the standard and go with it. And it's going to be much, much quicker. And I think that puts also then our partners in a position of much more of a trusted advisor, not somebody who just drives cost up in SAP projects, but really is somebody who can be used to then really work out the differentiation where it in fact is and help customers in the clean core journey and help them build extensions on AI and build it in a way that's secure and that helps is not hampering with the software upgrade and so on. So I think the role of an ESI partner is changing quite a bit. Nevertheless, the SI partners don't become less important. It's just really a very different role that they have to play. And for us, the biggest thing is really we need to shorten project time. We need to make it faster for companies to get, especially in the core, to the solution. And then also upgradability, make the upgrade more and more a non-event. And then really focus on the areas of innovation.
Super, thank you. Dear customers, this is exactly what we're doing. Okay, in this case, thank you very much, Jan. Sure. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.